I gave the next day to the largest law firm, that is now my biggest client. That talk brought in about €3,500 for me, and I've earned over €50,000 from them, and it's only been 3/4 of a year.
Wow.
So the thing with speaking is that it creates an enormous power of attraction for you. Like when you're on the stage, people listen. If you have a good story, and if your story is relevant to them, and and they feel that there's value and it's going to help them achieve goals, then they're going to hire you. They're going to hire you as a consultant. They're going to want you to speak again. They're going to want you to come and give a workshop. And so it's a great way to grow business. And then I went on the month after I was fully booked. In November, I made over 20,000. By December, I was the fastest growing speaker in the Netherlands. By January, I found myself on the #1 spot of the top 10 speaker list. And then by February, the guy who trained me as a speaker, Eric Edmeades, reaches out to me on Messenger and goes, "We got to talk." And we started talking, and now we're co-founding this new platform together called Speaker Nation. And and it's going to be big.
I love that the one thing in your life that made you literally sick to get up and do has turned into a career, a successful career at that, and a new business for you. It was just flipping through your Instagram page, and you've got a post on there that says, "Don't be impressed with money, degrees, or job titles, but be impressed with humility, integrity, and kindness." Would you mind just spending a second talking about what that humility, integrity, and kindness looks like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got grilled on that. Someone said, "Oh, but Chris, you put PhD at the end of your name." And yes, I do. Yes, I do, because there's a lot of Chris Baldwins out there. There are thousands and thousands of Chris Baldwins. There are porn stars, there are athletes, there are actors, and it was really hard to rank in Google for my name. So when I put PhD at the end of it, it's a branding play. When in any social platform, if you put PhD at the end of my name, I'm always first. And so that was a branding play. But that PhD I did, and I took 12 years to do it, I never used it a day in my life. Never used it. And so that just goes to say, the power of education these days, the power of the degrees. I learned two things from doing 12 years of education and taking it all the way to the end and getting a PhD in medicine. I learned two things. I learned that I was good enough. I was good enough to finish something. It was validation for me that I could round something off. And I learned how to solve problems. Those were the two things that it's not about what you learn in the degree.
Yeah.
It's about what you acquire, that these inherent skills along the way. And so coming back to that quote, humility and integrity, this is, coming back to these things, how to make people feel heard. Well, speak less, listen more. How to make people feel understood. Well, say less and ask better questions. Really guide them in your questioning. And that when you're talking about, someone that's willing to, it's funny, huh? I in Dutch, it's ik. It's the word that kids most commonly use. I like this. I want that. I did this. I love this. I did this. And even as adults, when you're sitting around a table now, really listen to what people are saying. And everyone's sort of throwing themselves in the conversation. I did this. Oh, yeah, and I experienced this. Oh, yeah, and I did this. And it's all sort of self-driven, right? It's like significance. It's like, I want to be more significant in this conversation.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I learned is in order to be remarkable, in order to be noticed, in order for people to listen, just do the opposite. Do the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing, because most people are doing the same thing. Go against the grain. That's what Steve Jobs was really good at. How the Steve Jobs, the think different, how that came about?
No.
It was launched in 1997. It was a campaign that basically gave rise to the world as we know it today with smartphones. And think different comes about because the biggest competitor for Apple at the time was IBM. And their slogan was think. That was the IBM slogan. And so Steve Jobs just went, well, we're going to think differently. Just do the opposite.
Yeah, sure.
And so what I do usually in conversations is that now I'm not the one saying, I like this and I did this and let me tell you. And I'm basically, when someone says, I said, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And then they keep saying, oh, that's interesting. Why did you do that? And so and the best way to make someone feel amazing is just let them speak about themselves.
Yeah.
And they will feel amazing. And so how do they see you now? Right? They see you as a listener. They see you as a guy or girl that's asking beautiful questions, because it's questions that's allowing them to be more significant, more appreciated, more important, more heard, more understood, right? And that when you're talking about entrepreneurship, what you want to do is create this force of attraction that people want to work with you because they like you. They want to be more around you. And it doesn't matter what product you have. They want to believe it. And because you have the ability now to communicate and really through really understanding what's on their mind. And so you can sort of make them understand what your vision is, what your product is, and ultimately the ability for your ability to influence them in the ways that you need to influence them is directly proportional in your ability to communicate.
Sure. Chris, I just have a couple more quick questions for you here. I'm wondering, do you have a routine that you follow every day to stay on top of your A game and be fresh in your speaking and what you're doing? Or are you just, you talk about being a father a little bit. I mean, what's your days look like?
Yeah, it's I got 3 kids, 5, 7, and 9. It's busy in the household.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm a speaker, so I travel probably about a third of the time. 2/3 of the time I'm home. That's beautiful because I can just be home with my kids, but it poses a problem because it's hard to get out of your work sometimes, right? So you're always sort of working and you're never off. So that's an issue I have to deal with and that many people have to deal with. One of the ways I deal with sort of achieving a lot in days where it's busy with kids and having to take them to school, pick them up, cook dinner, is I get up early. You know, I just get up early and I have these 3 principles that I live my life by. Mm-hmm. And they're called the Groundhog principles. And I made them a number of years ago. And you know Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray?
Yeah, great
Yeah,
movie.
So that's a movie I've never forgotten. And, you know, it's about it, that day repeats itself over and over again, right? And he gets a chance to just improve every single day. He just improves one little thing, right? It doesn't work. He goes back to bed. He wakes up the next day and he takes it a little bit further.
Yeah.
And every day he's improving a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And he's learning from every experience, right? So it sort of becomes accumulative. And eventually he gets the girl, right? Eventually he makes it. And so I see every single day that way, that you live life in airtime chambers. That's Dale Carnegie, you know, how to, I don't know, live life and worry less or something, the title of the book. And basically, so start our day the Groundhog Way is my first principle. So I try to start my day fairly similar every day, getting up early, and I allow for quiet reflection time in the morning. This is not a power hour in the morning. I get up and I make my coffee or my tea and I let my mind wander a little bit. And I let my mind because what happens while you're sleeping, you're assimilating a whole ton of things. Things are going on in your head. And you know, I built a model called Meaningful Connections, which got me to hundreds of podiums. I dreamt that up. I literally got up at 3 a.m. and wrote it out in that first hour just by letting my mind wander. And that got me to hundreds of podiums. It's made me, a ton of money now cumulatively over a couple of years. And that was something I dreamt up. So the first hour of my day, I start our day the Groundhog Way. It just you know, a wise man every day is a new day to a wise man, right? I think that's one of the Chinese proverbs. So it's sort of that mentality is that you get a chance to get it right every single day. But allow that first hour, allow your mind to wander and to sort of recognize and stick with stuff that's happened in your subconscious while you were sleeping. The second one is, if in doubt, go without. And that is something that I found that's been key to my decision-making my whole life. If it doesn't feel right in my gut, it's not right. But if it feels right in my gut, go for it. Even though your mind, your head might be giving you 1,000 reasons not to do it. You know, I'm tired, I don't have enough money, I can't right now, all those sorts of reasons why you're mad. If it feels right down there, jump first, think later. Right? But if there's any sort of doubt in your gut, the subconscious, that inner you that's not much, that inner you that's not affected by the outside world, Not so easily, Your conscious is very easily influenced by the outside world. All these ads and content that's trying to manipulate us into doing things in the interest of other people and other companies. The subconscious, the inner self, 95% of the time, the decision is correct. And so I've been going by my gut instinct this whole time. And that is that second mindset. If in doubt, go without. And the third one is taking action makes it happen. And nothing happens unless you do something about it. And we spend way too much time sometimes just thinking about stuff and pondering and dreaming. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming, but unless there's action behind a dream, it just stays a dream. And then eventually you've got regret because it's too late. And so I default towards action. And that means, like bringing it into entrepreneurial terms, that means show, don't tell. That is the secret to entrepreneurship. Show, don't tell. Build a prototype, get proof of concept, get people inspired about what you're about to build, and build it to a place where they can understand it. And then, so that's prototype, show, don't tell. And then tell them once they've seen it and they're interested in it. And that's exactly how I built Speaker Nation. And that's exactly how I built a lot of the stuff I've built. And by showing and not telling. And that means you need to take action and you need to have patience and persistence in trying to build something that's not going to pay off in the short term, but really what you're doing is you're building a story through action and something real instead of just words.
I love it.
And that's been, those three things are really sort of the key to how I live my days. And I apply those every single morning when I wake up. What things am I going to do today? What choices am I going to make? And what thoughts am I going to stick with today?
Wow. Powerful. Great morning routine. A great way to start your day. Let's wrap with this. I'm a little bit more curious about Speaker Nation. What can you tell our audience about Speaker Nation? What value is there for them? And how do they learn a little bit more about that? Because I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I've looked through the website, and it just looks like something that people should be aware of.
Yeah, so again, it's a prototype. So 10X Speaker is something I launched back in January. It was a prototype for Speaker Nation. It was basically how to get this guy's attention, right? This Eric Edmeades, this the guru dude. He does Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield. He's all up in that area. He's got a ton of network, a ton of connections, and I want to partner with him. So how am I going to get his attention? Well, I went ahead and built 10X Speaker, which is basically a prototype of Speaker Nation, something he's been wanting to build for like the last decade, but he just didn't take action. And I did. I took action and I went ahead and built it. And I created a fear of missing out, FOMO. Like, I was going to go forward with this with him or not.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted for him to get on the bandwagon. And so he did. And one thing you got to realize with Speaker Nation and with speaking, my goal is to get off stage, because when I'm on stage, you're not. That is the core philosophy I'm operating by. I don't like it up there. I want to get off, but I understand the power of being on the stage and the power that has to growing anything, whether it be influence or your business. So I want other people to feel that. And I want other people to drive results through that. So that's why Speaker Nation. And right now we're launching in Amsterdam next week on the 3rd and the 4th of October. It's a 2-day event. On day one, Eric Edmeades is going to be giving a full-day speaker training. It's one of the best trainings in the world, if not the best. The entry price is like really, really low because we're just covering costs for your podcast. If they want to turn up in Amsterdam, if they're in the area or they want to fly in next October, it's only 49 euros, so like about $55 to have a full day speaker training by one of the best guys in the world. And so just use coupon code 30 when you're buying any of the tickets. And there's also, if you can't make it to Amsterdam, we just built a prototype last week in a business academy. We generated over 6,000 in sales, sold over 60 passes to online access. So we built an online access pass to the whole full day event. So you can still see Eric Edmeades, give his training, participate in that training from anywhere in the world. And that's you can use the coupon code 30, and I think it's just over $100 to get access to that.
That's great.
So we're making it accessible. This is not about making money now. This is about creating community and creating a type of movement, and really to try and help people be heard and help people free their story, whoever they are.
I love it. Chris, I can easily see why your success on stage